She waited 10 years for his word the day he returned. Everything changed. Before we begin, comment your country so I know where this story is reaching. Marin Tallgrass had lived with silence for so long that it felt like another member of the household. It lived in the hallways, in the cracks of the porch, in the empty chair across from her at supper. 10 years earlier, a man had stood beside her gate and promised he would return when she needed him most. She never asked him to make that promise. He offered it freely, with a steady voice and the kind of conviction men used to carry like a badge. Then he rode away. Marin was 49 now, a woman shaped by years of early mornings and hard seasons. She ran her ranch with quiet discipline, mending fences, tending a small field, keeping the books in a flour-dusted ledger. She wasn't lonely, just unfinished, as if one page of her life had been left open for someone who never came back to close it. People in town respected her. Elsie at the post office set aside letters for her with extra care. Hank at the store kept her favorite dried peaches behind the counter. Her Apache neighbor, Anna, visited often, bringing herbs and stories passed down through generations. They all knew about the promise. They never spoke of it. Marin appreciated that. Every so often, a letter arrived from him. Short, uneven handwriting. A sentence or two about drifting work, bad weather, or roads that turned him in the wrong direction. He never said why he stayed away. He never said he was coming back either. Still, she kept every note in a wooden drawer along with the worn hat he'd left behind. On the 10th year, something changed. Marin noticed at the moment she stepped out to feed the horses. A single hoof print near the front gate, not from one of her animals. Fresher, heavier, pointed toward the house, not away from it. Her breath caught, but her expression remained steady. Years had trained her to control what showed on her face. She touched the print once, brushing away loose dust, feeling a strange mixture of dread and hope. Two feelings that rarely sat side by side. All day she worked as usual, though her hands trembled once when she lifted a water bucket. Evening settled slowly across the valley. The light thinned, the shadows stretched, and the warmth faded from the boards beneath her boots. That's when she heard it, a rhythm she hadn't heard in a decade. Hoofbeats on the old dirt road, slow, uncertain, approaching her gate. Marin set her hands on her apron and steadied herself. No excitement, no fear, just the weight of a promise returning after too many years of wandering. She walked to the gate without rushing. Whatever waited on the other side, she would face it with the same quiet strength that had carried her through every season since he left. The rider stopped a few yards from the gate, dust settling around him like a curtain dropping after a long performance. Marin didn't move. She simply waited, hands resting lightly against the wood, as the man swung down from his horse with the stiffness of someone who had lived too long on the trail. His name was Rowan Hale. 10 years had carved deeper lines into his face, silvered the edges of his hair, and added a quiet heaviness to his shoulders. But his eyes, those steady storm-color eyes, were the same ones that once promised they would return. "Marin," he said, voice low, almost careful. She didn't answer right away. She studied him the way ranchers study incoming weather, measuring its danger, its use, its truth. When she finally spoke, her tone was even. "You found your way after all this time." Rowan exhaled softly. "I should have come sooner." "That's true," she replied, not unkindly, just honest. He lowered his gaze. The years hadn't been gentle with him. That much was clear. His coat was patched, his boots worn thin, and there was a guarded sorrow in his posture that hadn't been there a decade ago. Marin opened the gate. "Come inside. You look like you lost half your life on the road." He almost smiled at that, almost, but instead he nodded, leading his tired horse beside her. They walked in silence, the kind that holds too many unspoken things. Inside the kitchen, Marin served him stew without ceremony. He ate like a man unfamiliar with warmth, pausing now and then as if expecting the moment to evaporate. When the bowl was empty, he set it down and finally met her eyes. There's a reason I came back, Rowan said. Not just for the promise. Something's happening in the valley. Marin felt a ripple of unease. What kind of something? New men, he said. Surveyors. Speculators. The kind who talk soft but look at land like it's already theirs. They're buying up ranches northwest of here, and they've taken particular interest in yours. Marin felt the weight of those words. Her ranch wasn't big, but it sat near a spring that never dried, a prize anyone with enough money or greed would covet. Rowan continued, I heard them mention the tall grass place by name in a saloon outside Canyon Bend. Thought they would just talk until one of them pulled out a map with your land marked in red. That's when I knew I had come. Marin's jaw tightened. They want the water. They want whatever they can take, he said. And they're moving fast. She leaned back in her chair, absorbing it all. The silence between them grew heavier, but not cold. More like two people recognizing they were standing at the edge of something that would not resolve itself. Rowan broke the quiet first. When I left, I told you I'd return if you ever needed me. I didn't expect the world to give me a reason, but here it is. Marin folded her hands. You're late, Rowan. 10 years late. But you're here now. So tell me what you think they're planning. He hesitated. Marin, they don't just want to land. They're looking for something buried under it. Something worth lying, cheating, and chasing people off for. She studied him carefully. Do you know what that something is? Rowan looked away. Not yet, but I know how far men like that will go. She nodded slowly. Then we'll find out together. Rowan's expression eased, just a fraction, but enough to show that the weight he carried was shifting. For the first time in 10 years, they were sitting across from each other not as ghosts, not as unfinished history, but as two people preparing to face whatever came next. If you're still here, make sure to like and subscribe so more people can enjoy stories like this. Rowan stayed the night in the small guest room at the end of the hall. Marin didn't sleep much. She sat by the window with a blanket around her shoulders, watching the moon drift across the quiet fields. The land looked peaceful, but she could feel trouble moving beneath that stillness the way ranchers feel a storm before it forms. At first light, Rowan stepped onto the porch with his hat in his hands. I want to show you something, he said. His tone was steady, but there was an urgency underneath that hadn't been there the night before. They walked the northern pasture together, the one closest to the spring. Marin noticed how he kept scanning the trees, checking old cattle paths, listening for things most people would ignore. 10 years had changed him into a man who lived on the edge of caution. Near the base of cottonwood tree, he knelt and brushed aside loose soil. A thin metal stake appeared, freshly placed, with survey markings burned into its side. Marin felt her pulse thicken. That wasn't here yesterday. They're marking lines, Rowan said. First they draw boundaries. Then they claim what's inside them. Marin took a breath that trembled more than she wanted. This is my land. They have no right. That's why I came back, he said quietly, to make sure you don't fight them alone. They walked farther toward the spring where willow leaves shivered softly above the water. Rowan stopped again, pointing at tracks pressed into the muddy edge. Men's boots. 3 sets. Marin recognized the weight of them, purposeful, not passing through. They've been here more than once, he said, and they're coming back. Marin felt a mix of fear and anger, a combination sharp enough to steady her spine. This ranch is all I have left, Rowan. All I've built. I won't be chased off. He turned to her, and for the first time since his return, he spoke without hesitation. You won't be, but we need the truth. Whatever they want, it's connected to that spring. We need to find out why. Late that afternoon, Anna rode over from her homestead, carrying a small bundle of dried sage. Marin explained what she and Rowan had found. Anna listened quietly, her dark eyes narrowing with thought. My grandmother spoke of this place, she said. The spring feeds more than water. There were stories of old mineral beds below it. Not gold, something rarer. used by travelers long before any of us lived here. Rowan nodded slowly. That would make sense. The men who want this land aren't ranchers. They're treasure hunters with money behind them. Marin felt something settle inside her, not panic, but resolve. All right, she said. If they want what's under this land, they won't get it by pushing people around. We protect the ranch, and we protect the spring. Rowan stepped closer, his voice low. We do it the right way. No fighting, no reckless moves. We gather proof, we see who's behind it, and we make them answer to the law. Marin held his gaze for a long, quiet moment. She still carried the sting of 10 lost years, the weight of unanswered letters, the ache of promises left hanging. But she also saw something different in him now. Steadiness shaped through hardship, loyalty sharpened rather than dulled. I'm not sure I can trust you the way I once did, she said softly. But I can trust what needs to be done. Rowan nodded once. That's enough for me. As the sun dipped behind the hills, the three of them stood together near the spring. The land was quiet, but no longer lonely. Marin felt something she hadn't felt in years. Not safety, not certainty, but the sense that the next chapter wouldn't be faced alone. Rowan looked toward the road where trouble would eventually come. When they return, he said, we'll be ready. Marin touched the old cottonwood trunk, the one her parents had planted when she was small. For 10 years I waited for one truth, she murmured. Now I finally have it. Rowan asked, what truth is that? That some promises come late, she said, but they still come. And for the first time in a long while, she let herself believe it.